past is a mighty thing. It clings to the soul like vines wrapped around an ancient tree, whispering memories in the wind, reminding you of every misstep, every wound, every regret. It has a way of creeping into the present, shaping how you walk, how you love, how you dream. Some carry their past like a crown, polished and bright, a testament to triumph. Others wear it like shackles, heavy and rusted, holding them prisoner to mistakes and heartbreak. But there is a freedom, a sacred kind of release that comes not from running, not from forgetting, but from surrendering. Letting go is not erasure. It is not pretending that what was never happened. Letting go is standing in the light of God's grace and choosing to no longer be bound by what He has already freed you from. There was a woman once, a woman with a story like so many others. She had seen heartbreak. She had tasted disappointment. She had looked in the mirror and seen a stranger staring back, a woman burdened by the weight of yesterday. She carried every betrayal, every unkind word, every failure on her shoulders, dragging them behind her like a sack of stones. And though she prayed, though she whispered cries to the heavens in the quiet of the night, she still clung to the very things that were breaking her, not because she wanted to, but because she didn't know how to let go. Some of you know what that feels like. You hold on to things you should have laid down long ago. You replay conversations in your mind, thinking about what you should have said, what you should have done. You build your present around your past, measuring your worth by mistakes you made when you didn't know any better. You let guilt whisper in your ear, let shame keep you silent, let regret hold your hand like an old friend. But I came to tell you something today. You don't have to live that way. You don't have to carry what God has already asked you to release. The enemy would have you believe that your past defines you, that the choices you made, the moments you lost, the people who left, all add up to who you are. But that's a lie. Because there is a love, a mercy, a grace so deep, so wide, that it wipes the slate clean. God does not see you through the lens of your failures. He sees you through the blood of His Son. He sees you as whole, as worthy, as redeemed. And if God Himself has forgiven you, why do you still walk like you are in chains? Some of you have been carrying your past like a badge of honor. You've let it become your identity. You introduce yourself with your wounds. You speak in the language of your pain. You have rehearsed your heartbreak so many times that it has become a script. You don't know how to stop performing. But I want to ask you something today. If you were to put down that script, if you were to step out of that role, who could you be? What kind of life could you live if you stopped defining yourself by what broke you and started defining yourself by who healed you? There is a freedom in God that is unlike any other. It is not the kind of freedom the world gives, not the kind that depends on circumstances, on people, on status or success. It is a freedom that comes from knowing that you belong to Him, that no matter what you have done, no matter where you have been, you are loved beyond measure, that His mercies are new every morning, that He is not keeping score, that He is not waiting to punish you. He is waiting to set you free. But freedom requires a choice to lay it down, a choice to release the past, not because it wasn't real, not because it didn't shape you, but because it is not where you are meant to stay. When God called Lazarus out of the grave, He did not call him out so he could keep wearing the burial clothes. He did not raise him to life so he could still smell like death. And yet some of you are walking in new life, but still wrapped in the rags of your past. You are free, but you are living like you are still bound. It is time to take off what no longer belongs to you. It is time to step out of the graveyard and into the light. And I know it's not easy. The past is familiar. It is the house you have lived in, the language you have spoken, the weight you have carried so long you don't know who you are without it. But let me tell you something. There is more for you. God did not bring you this far to leave you drowning in memories of what was. He did not call you his child so you could live like an orphan, begging for scraps of grace when he has prepared a feast before you. It's time to let go, to forgive what needs to be forgiven, to release what needs to be released, to stop rehearsing the pain and start walking in the promise, because your destiny is ahead of you, not behind you. And as long as you keep looking back, as long as you keep holding on to what was, you will never be able to embrace what is to come. You are not your past. You are not your failures. You are not your heartbreak. You are a child of the Most High God. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are covered by grace, held by mercy, and loved without condition. And that love, that mercy, that grace, it is enough. It is enough to heal the wounds. It is enough to break the chains. It is enough to set you free. So today, right now, make the choice. Put it down. Walk away from the guilt, from the shame, from the regret that has kept you bound. Step into the freedom that has already been given to you. Walk like you are loved. Walk like you are chosen. Walk like you are free, because you are. The hardest thing about letting go is that it feels like losing a part of yourself. The past, no matter how painful, is still familiar, and there is a strange kind of comfort in what we know, even when it is hurting us. We hold on because we think we need to make sense of it, because we think if we analyze it enough, if we replay it enough, if we carry it long enough, then maybe it will finally stop hurting. But pain does not leave because you keep it close. It lingers because you refuse to release it. It becomes a shadow that follows you, whispering lies in your ear, convincing you that you will never be anything more than the sum of your mistakes. But God does not see you that way. He never has. And he is waiting for you to stop measuring yourself by a past that he has already erased. You have spent too long trying to find healing in things that will never make you whole. Some of you have looked for healing in relationships, hoping that another person could fix the parts of you that feel broken. Some of you have looked for it in success, thinking that if you accomplish enough, it will make up for what you lost. Some of you have drowned yourselves in distractions, trying to numb the ache that will not go away. But nothing in this world can heal a wound that only God was meant to touch. Nothing can restore you like his love. And the moment you finally surrender, the moment you stop trying to heal yourself and allow him to do what only he can, that is the moment you will finally understand what it means to be free. But the truth is, freedom is frightening, because when you have spent your life being bound, when you have carried your past like a weight around your neck, being free can feel like being untethered, like stepping into unfamiliar territory without a map. It can feel like losing a part of yourself. And that is why so many people stay trapped, not because they want to, but because they do not know who they would be without their pain. But let me tell you something. You were not created to live in the ruins of your past. You were not called to spend your days sifting through the ashes of what was. You were made for more. Some of you have been waiting for a sign, waiting for confirmation, waiting for something to tell you that it is finally time to let go. But deep down, you already know. You already feel the tug in your spirit, the gentle nudge from God telling you that you cannot stay in this place any longer. You have outgrown the version of yourself that still lives in the past. It is time to step into the new. It is time to stop waiting for an apology that may never come. It is time to stop looking for closure in places that only bring you more confusion. It is time to stop carrying burdens that God never meant for you to carry. And I know it is easier said than done. I know that there are things you have held on to for so long that they feel like a part of you. I know that letting go can feel like betrayal, like leaving behind something that once meant everything. But the past was meant to be a lesson, not a life sentence. You are not dishonoring your past by choosing to move forward. You are not betraying who you were by stepping into who you are becoming. Growth is not abandonment. Healing is not forgetting. It is honoring what was by choosing to live fully in what is. And do not be mistaken. Walking in God's freedom does not mean you will never remember. It does not mean that there will not be moments when the past tries to call your name, when the memories try to wrap themselves around you once more. But the difference is that when you walk in freedom, you are no longer controlled by what once held you captive. You may remember, but you will not relive. You may carry the lessons, but you will not carry the pain. There is something powerful about a person who has been set free. There is something unshakable about a person who knows who they are in God, who refuses to be defined by what tried to break them. And that is what he is calling you to. He is calling you to walk with your head held high, not because you are perfect, but because you are redeemed. He is calling you to stop looking at yourself through the eyes of those who could not see your worth and to start looking at yourself through his eyes. Because in his eyes, you are loved beyond measure. You are chosen. You are new. And I know that for some of you, the past is not just a distant memory. It is a wound that still feels fresh. A battle you are still fighting, a storm you are still walking through. But even in the middle of it, even in the moments when the pain feels unbearable, you are not alone. God is not waiting on the other side of your healing. He is with you in it. He is walking with you through the fire, and he will not let it consume you. He is holding you even when you feel like you are falling apart. But you have to trust him. You have to trust that he is leading you somewhere better. You have to trust that what he has for you is greater than what you are leaving behind. You have to trust that his plans for you are good, that his love for you is unshakable, that he is working all things together for your good, even the things you do not understand, even the things that have broken you. Because there is a new season ahead. A season of restoration, a season of joy, a season where the weight you have carried for so long will finally be lifted. But you cannot step into it if you are still clinging to what was. You have to make the decision to let go. You have to decide that you are no longer going to live in the shadows of your past. You have to decide that you are no longer going to define yourself by the things that happened to you. Because there is nothing the enemy fears more than a person who has been set free. There's nothing more dangerous than a person who knows their worth, who knows their identity, who knows that they are not bound by their past. And that is what you are stepping into. You are stepping into a life where your past no longer has power over you. You are stepping into a life where you are not just surviving, but thriving. You are stepping into a life where you wake up every morning knowing that you are chosen, that you are loved, that you are free. So do not stay where you are. Do not keep holding on to things that are only weighing you down. Do not keep looking back when God is calling you forward. This is your moment. This is your time. This is your season to step into everything God has for you. So take a deep breath. Let go. Walk forward, because freedom is already yours. Letting go is not a single act, but a daily decision, a moment-by-moment surrender. It is waking up each morning and refusing to pick up the burdens you laid down the night before. It is choosing to believe that you are no longer bound by things that have already been redeemed. It is resisting the urge to revisit wounds that God has already healed. Because the enemy will try to remind you. He will try to whisper in your ear, try to drag you back into places you have outgrown, try to convince you that you are not really free. But you must stand firm. You must recognize that your freedom is not based on how you feel. It is based on the truth of who God is. And if he has said you are free, then you are free indeed. But some of you are afraid of what life will look like without the weight you have carried for so long. You have allowed pain to define you. You have made a home out of your past. And though it is heavy, though it is exhausting, it is also familiar. You do not know who you would be without it. But God is calling you to step into the unknown. He is calling you to trust that the life he has for you is better than the life you are trying to hold on to. He is calling you to step into his light, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it feels unfamiliar. Because you were never meant to stay where you were. You were never meant to build a life in a place that was only meant to be a lesson. Some of you have been carrying guilt for things that God forgave long ago. You have been punishing yourself for mistakes that have already been covered by grace. You have allowed shame to keep you silent, to keep you small, to keep you from stepping into the fullness of who you were created to be. But guilt is not your portion. Shame is not your inheritance. You were made for more. And the moment you truly grasp that, the moment you allow God's love to consume every broken place, you will understand that nothing from your past can disqualify you from his plans. But you have to believe it. Because God can set you free, but you have to choose to walk in that freedom. He can break the chains, but you have to stop picking them up again. He can open the door, but you have to be willing to walk through it. Too many of you have been set free, but are still living like captives. You have been given a new name, a new identity, but you are still answering to the old one. It is time to walk differently. It is time to speak differently. It is time to live like you truly believe that you are no longer who you used to be. And I know that some of you are still waiting for an explanation, still waiting for things to make sense, still waiting for the closure you think you need before you can move forward. But hear me. Understanding is not a prerequisite for healing. You do not have to know why it happened. You do not have to know why they left, why they hurt you, why things fell apart the way they did. You do not need all the answers to be free. You only need to trust the one who holds your future. You only need to believe that God is still good, even when you do not understand. Because some of you have been praying for freedom, but the truth is, you do not really want to let go. You want to hold on to your pain because it gives you a reason to stay the same. You want to hold on to your past because it justifies your fear of the future. You want to hold on to your wounds because they give you an identity. But there is no healing in that. There is no life in that. You cannot cling to your past and reach for your future at the same time. You have to make a choice. You have to decide what matters more, your comfort or your calling, your pain or your purpose, your past or your future. Because there is nothing for you back there. There is nothing in that heartbreak, nothing in that failure, nothing in that regret that is worth more than what God has ahead of you. And yet so many of you keep looking back, keep revisiting places that only bring you pain. But Lot's wife looked back and she turned to salt. She became frozen in place, stuck in the in-between, unable to move forward because she could not release what was behind her. And that is exactly what happens when you refuse to let go. You become stuck in cycles of pain, stuck in the same patterns, the same habits, the same heartbreak. But you were never meant to stay there. God is calling you forward. He is calling you into something new. He is calling you into a life that is full of joy, full of purpose, full of peace. But you have to let go. You have to stop living as though your best days are behind you. You have to stop believing that your mistakes have disqualified you from the goodness of God, because His grace is bigger than your failures. His love is greater than your past. His plans for you are still good, still beautiful, still waiting for you to step into them. But you have to stop fighting for things that God has already removed. Stop trying to resurrect what He allowed to die. Stop trying to hold on to relationships, opportunities, and seasons that have already served their purpose. What God has ahead of you is greater than anything you are leaving behind. But you will never see it if you keep looking back. And I know that some of you have lost things that you never thought you could live without. I know that some of you have walked through pain that still lingers, that still wakes you up in the middle of the night, that still feels like a fresh wound. And I will not tell you to pretend it did not happen. I will not tell you to act like it did not hurt. But I will tell you that God can take even the most broken pieces and turn them into something beautiful. I will tell you that He can use even your deepest pain to bring forth your greatest purpose. I will tell you that nothing you have been through is wasted. But you cannot keep reliving it. You cannot keep letting it define you. You cannot keep allowing it to rob you of the joy that is available to you right now. Because joy is not found in the absence of pain. It is found in the presence of God. And when you truly walk with Him, when you truly surrender your past to Him, you will find that even in the middle of uncertainty, even in the middle of the unknown, even in the middle of the process, you can have peace. Because the past is a prison for those who refuse to let it go. But God has already given you the key. He has already made a way. He has already opened the door. And now all that is left is for you to walk through it. But you have to want it. You have to want freedom more than you want familiarity. You have to want healing more than you want comfort. You have to want God's plan more than you want your own. Because the truth is, if you keep holding on to your past, you will miss what is ahead. If you keep holding on to pain, you will miss out on joy. If you keep holding on to regret, you will miss out on grace. And if you keep defining yourself by what was, you will never step into what could be. So choose today to let it go. Choose today to walk in freedom. Choose today to believe that God's plan for you is still good. Choose today to stop looking back, because your future is waiting. Your healing is waiting. Your freedom is waiting, but you have to let go. You have to make the choice. And when you do, when you finally release what was, when you finally surrender your past into the hands of God, you will find that what He has for you is greater than anything you ever imagined. You will find that He has been waiting for you to take this step all along, and you will finally understand that you were never meant to live in chains. You were always meant to be free. Letting go is not for the weak-hearted. It is not for those who would rather sit in their sorrow than step into the unknown. It is not for those who would rather keep turning over the ashes of what was instead of reaching for the beauty of what could be. Letting go requires courage. It requires the willingness to wake up every day and remind yourself that you are no longer who you used to be, that you will not let your past dictate your future, that you will not allow the things that broke you to keep you broken, because the past is relentless. It will call for you in moments of weakness. It will whisper your old name when you are stepping into something new. It will remind you of all the reasons you should stay the same, but you must resist. You must plant your feet firmly in the truth that you are no longer bound. You must declare with every fiber of your being that you will not be held hostage by what God has already released you from. And yet some of you still hesitate. You hesitate because the past, as painful as it is, feels safer than the unknown. You hesitate because freedom requires responsibility, because healing requires work, because stepping into something new requires faith. But what is faith if not stepping into the unseen? What is faith if not trusting that God has something better for you, even when you do not know what it looks like yet? What is faith if not believing that he will not leave you stranded, that he will not call you forward just to abandon you along the way? You cannot claim to trust God while still holding on to the things he told you to release. You cannot walk into your future while still gripping the past with both hands. At some point, you must decide which one you want more. Some of you have spent so much time mourning what was lost that you have not even noticed what God is trying to birth in your life. You have been staring at closed doors for so long that you have not even seen the ones he has already opened. You have been crying over missed opportunities, over failed relationships, over paths that did not work out. And all the while, God has been trying to show you that what he has ahead of you is so much greater. But you cannot receive something new if your hands are still full of what no longer belongs to you. You cannot walk through the door of your next season if you are still trying to pry open a door that God himself has shut. Some of you have been fighting against God's will, trying to resurrect something he has already called dead, trying to make sense of something he has already resolved. But God does not ask you to understand. He asks you to trust. He does not need you to have all the answers. He needs you to be willing to follow. Because the past is a thief. It will rob you of your peace, rob you of your joy, rob you of the present moment if you let it. It will keep you so focused on what was that you will completely miss what is. And some of you are so bound by yesterday that you are not even living today. You are stuck in cycles of regret, stuck in cycles of overthinking, stuck in cycles of trying to fix what is already gone. But God is not in the past. And I know that letting go feels like surrender. I know that it feels like giving up. I know that it feels like losing a part of yourself. But what if I told you that it is not losing at all? What if I told you that it is actually gaining peace, gaining freedom, gaining the ability to finally live without carrying the weight of the past on your back? What if I told you that God is not asking you to let go because he wants to take something from you, but because he wants to give you something better? What if I told you that he is not calling you to release because he wants to leave you empty, but because he wants to fill you with something new? But you have to be willing. You have to be willing to trust that there is more. You have to be willing to believe that your best days are still ahead. You have to be willing to break the cycle, to release the narrative you have told yourself for so long, to finally believe that you are not the same person you used to be. Because when God frees you, he does not do it halfway. He does not leave pieces of your old life hanging onto you. He makes you new. He wipes the slate clean. He calls you his own and declares that you are whole. But if you do not see yourself the way he sees you, you will keep walking like you are still broken. You will keep living like you are still wounded. You will keep clinging to things that no longer fit who you are becoming. And that is the danger of holding on, the danger of refusing to let go, because you can miss out on what God has for you by staying attached to what he has already removed. You can stay stuck in cycles of pain simply because you refuse to release. And some of you have been wondering why you feel stagnant, why nothing seems to be moving, why you feel trapped in the same struggles, the same patterns, the same emotions. But how can God move you forward when you are still holding on to everything that is meant to be left behind? How can he bless you with new things when you are still clutching on to the old? How can he take you higher when you are still anchored to the ground? It is time to make a choice, a real choice. Not just saying you want to let go, but actually doing it, actually laying it down, actually deciding that you will no longer allow your past to dictate your future, actually choosing to walk in the freedom that has already been given to you. Because freedom is not just about being released. It is about living like you are free. It is about no longer allowing the weight of what was to dictate what is. It is about no longer allowing past wounds to shape your identity. It is about standing in the truth of who God says you are, even when your feelings try to tell you otherwise. And I know that feelings are strong. I know that memories are loud. I know that fear will try to creep in. But you are stronger. The God inside of you is greater. His power is bigger than your fear, bigger than your doubt, bigger than your past. And when you finally choose to let go, when you finally make the decision to stop carrying what no longer serves you, you will realize that the weight you have been carrying was never yours to bear. You will realize that you were never meant to live in bondage. You will realize that the pain, the regret, the shame was never yours to keep. So today, choose freedom, choose peace, choose to walk away from anything that no longer aligns with where God is taking you, because your future is waiting. Your purpose is waiting. The life that God has for you is waiting, but you have to be willing to take the first step. You have to be willing to release what is in your hands so that He can place something new in them. You have to be willing to trust that what He has ahead of you is so much greater than anything you have left behind. Because the truth is, you were never meant to stay in the past. You were never meant to keep reliving old wounds. You were never meant to carry shame, to carry guilt, to carry burdens that have already been lifted. You were meant to be free. You were meant to walk in joy. You were meant to live a life that reflects the goodness of God, a life that is not defined by what was, but by what is and what is to come. So do not stay where you are. Do not allow fear to keep you stuck. Do not let the past define you any longer. Step into the new. Walk boldly into the freedom that has already been given to you, because God is not in your past. He is in your present, calling you forward, reminding you that what He has for you is greater. And when you finally release what was, when you finally let go of what is no longer yours to carry, you will find that you are lighter. You will find that you are stronger. You will find that you are free. Letting go is not about forgetting, nor is it about pretending that the past never happened. It is about choosing not to let it control you anymore. It is about stepping out of the shadows of yesterday and into the light of God's freedom. The past may have shaped you, but it does not define you. What God has ahead of you is far greater than anything you have left behind, and He is calling you forward, not backward. Freedom is not just a gift, it is a responsibility. You must choose to walk in it daily, to trust that God's plans are still good, and to believe that you are worthy of the future He has prepared for you. Let go of the pain, the shame, and the weight of yesterday. Embrace the joy, the peace, and the new life that God has for you. Your freedom is waiting. Step into it.